On January 8th, 2016, his 69th birthday, David Bowie gave the world one last gift. 2 days later, he was gone. But this wasn't just an album, it was a goodbye, meticulously crafted and delivered to the world. Knowing his time was short, Bowie turned his own death into a masterpiece, weaving his mortality into the very fabric of Blackstar. This is the story of how an artist didn't just face death, he choreographed it. Artists have always wrestled with death, but it's a rare thing for someone to stare so directly into the void and turn it into a final, coherent statement. When David Bowie released Blackstar, the world heard it as another brilliant reinvention. This time, a deep dive into experimental, jazz-infused rock. But then, on January 10th, 2016, the album's true purpose was revealed with shocking clarity. Bowie's passing recontextualized everything. The cryptic lyrics, unsettling videos, the title itself, it all snapped into focus. This wasn't just music, it was a pre-written epitaph, a piece of performance art where the finale was his own quiet exit from the world. His longtime collaborator, producer Tony Visconti, would later confirm what fans had begun to suspect. The album was a deliberate parting gift. Bowie, diagnosed with liver cancer in 2014, knew his time was limited. So he did what he'd always done. He took control of the narrative. He refused to let illness define his final chapter. Instead, he molded his own mortality into one last enigmatic character, a final story for us to decipher. Blackstar isn't just an album about dying, it's a sound of an artist orchestrating his own legacy in real time. To really get Blackstar, you have to understand that Bowie had been rehearsing for this moment his entire career. Death, transformation, and the fluid nature of identity weren't new ideas for him. They were the bedrock of his art. He was the master of creating characters that lived, died, and were reborn. Think back to Major Tom from 1969's Space Oddity, a lonely astronaut floating in his tin can, the ultimate symbol of alienation. We meet him again in Ashes to Ashes, only to learn he's a junkie strung out in heaven's high. These weren't just songs, they were episodes in a sprawling personal mythology. Then, of course, there was Ziggy Stardust, the messianic rock star ultimately consumed by his own fame, a persona Bowie famously killed on stage in 1973. These characters gave Bowie a way to explore life and, more importantly, its end. He treated his own identity like a costume he could change at will, and every change was a small death and rebirth. This lifelong fascination makes Blackstar feel less like a sudden turn and more like the final, inevitable act of a play that had been running for 50 years. The video for the title track Blackstar makes this connection impossible to ignore. One of his first images is a dead astronaut, its jeweled skull discovered by a curious alien woman. For fans, the message was clear. This was Major Tom. It was the end of the beginning. Bowie was closing the loop, bringing the first character he ever introduced to its final resting place. It was a powerful signal that this album was different. This wasn't just the death of another persona, it was the artist himself taking his final bow. The recording of Blackstar was shrouded in secrecy. After being diagnosed with liver cancer in mid-2014, Bowie started the sessions in early 2015, all while undergoing chemotherapy. He told only his family and his closest collaborators like Tony Visconti. Visconti recalled that while Bowie's illness wasn't discussed, its presence was felt. There were days he couldn't come in, Visconti said, but when he got in front of the microphone, he sang his balls off. Instead of retreating, Bowie surged forward with an incredible burst of creative energy, determined to see this project through. He put together a new band of adventurous New York jazz musicians led by saxophonist Donnie McCaslin. The choice was deliberate. Bowie wanted a sound that was urgent, complex, and totally new, refusing to lean on the rock musicians of his past. He was breaking new ground right up to the very end. The result is a sound that's both aggressive and ethereal, a perfect backdrop for his last haunting meditations. The secrecy was crucial to the album's power. If the world had known he was terminally ill, Blackstar would have been received with pity, its message filtered through sadness. Instead, Bowie orchestrated a stunning two-act reveal. Act 1, the world hears a challenging experimental work from an artist still at the peak of his powers. Act 2, the news of his death transforms the album into a profound personal farewell. It was a final, brilliant piece of stagecraft, ensuring the work was judged on its own terms before its heartbreaking context was ever understood. The heart of Bowie's final message lives in the album's two pillars, the title track and Lazarus. Together with their videos, they're dense with symbolism, offering a direct window into his mindset as he faced his own end. The Blackstar video, a 10-minute surrealist film, pulls us into a strange ritualistic world. It opens on a desolate alien landscape with a dead astronaut whose ornate jeweled skull is taken as a holy relic. It suggests that while the body dies, the art, the creative spirit, becomes sacred and lives on. We see Bowie in two forms. The first is Button Eyes, a blindfolded, anxious figure representing a body in distress. The second is a charismatic preacher holding a book with a black star symbol, a creator turning his own suffering into a sermon. The lyrics are just as layered. Something happened on the day he died. The spirit rose a meter and stepped inside. Somebody else took his place and bravely cried, "I am a black star." He isn't just dying, he's becoming something else. The term black star itself is packed with meaning. It can refer to a type of cancerous lesion, a collapsing star, or a hidden, powerful force. For Bowie, it was the symbol of his final transformation. If Black Star is a sermon, Lazarus is the deeply personal confession. The video is stark, claustrophobic, set in the hospital room. It opens with those now iconic lines, "Look up here, I'm in heaven, I've got scars that can't be seen." It's a direct address from a man who knows what's coming. Again, Bowie appears in two forms. One, frail and tormented on his deathbed, his eyes bandaged. The other, a vital creative force in a striped suit, a nod to his station-to-station era, frantically writing at a desk, trying to get his last thoughts down before time runs out. The video's final moments are among the most poignant in music history. The writhing Bowie retreats slowly backwards into a dark wardrobe, pulling the doors shut behind him. It's a simple, devastatingly effective metaphor for death. Not a violent end, but a quiet, deliberate exit from the stage. The director, Johann Renck, later revealed that Bowie learned his cancer was terminal and treatments were ending during the week they shot the Lazarus video. While the concept came before that final diagnosis, his performance is filled with the weight of that knowledge, turning the video into an unflinching look at a man saying goodbye on his own terms. Black Star is so much more than a final album. It's a final act of creation, a masterclass in facing the inevitable with grace, courage, and relentless artistry. In his last months, David Bowie didn't just write about death, he sculpted it, directed it, and performed it. He refused to be a passive victim of his illness. Instead, he made it the raw material for his ultimate masterpiece. His death wasn't a tragic end to his career, it was the final, perfectly executed piece of it. As his friend and producer Tony Visconti said, his death was no different from his life, a work of art. He made Blackstar for us, his parting gift. Bowie orchestrated a public experience of grief and discovery, leaving cues for his audience to piece together after he was gone. He controlled his own story right to the very end. The album's experimental jazz, cryptic symbols, and haunting lyrics all create a singular final statement. He didn't fade away. He vanished into his own mythology, leaving a black star on the door as he closed it behind him. And in doing so, David Bowie ensured that even in death, he would remain what he always was, an artist, one step ahead of everyone else. So what does Black Star mean to you when you listen to it, knowing the full story, what stands out? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to like and subscribe. For more stories behind the music, I do anniversary reviews and rankings and new album reviews, metal, rock, all that stuff. See you in the next one.